Alright, here's our video on adding and subtracting decimals, and we've done this in 5th grade. You know how to do this, and there's something to remember when you add and subtract, and only when you add and subtract, is line up the decimals. Very important to line up the decimals. So this is just a review. I will add some more things. So again, we have 2.9 plus 0.0003. So, one way you can add decimals, if you can turn them into fractions if you want. Well, that's sometimes a little harder, but you know that's 2 and 9/10, right? And what do you think this one is? Well, you always use the first natural number you see, which is 3. And what place value is it in? It's in the 10,000s. So we know that's what we're looking at. But we're just going to add decimals. So again, I said line them up. So it's 2.9 plus 0.0003. Right? So there it is. Just line up the decimals and add. And you could put zeros up there if you wish to make it easier. Just straight add. And there we go. So one thing we should do in 6th grade is, though, we want to estimate it. So let's look at 2.4 plus 3.9. So what you can do is you look up at the first one, and that you can round down to 2. Remember, if it's 5 or more, you round up. That would be 3. But since it's 4 or less, it's 2. That's just estimating. And 3.9 could round up to 4. So your estimate is 6. So how close are we to the estimate? So when we're doing estimates, it's just a fast guess. You can say, okay, that's 2 and that's 4, so it's 6. So again, let's add these, get the exact amount by lining up the decimals. And you remember with the commutative property, it doesn't matter which number you put on top and which number you put on bottom. So what do you get? Okay, well we have 13 here, and we got to put the 1 up there. Don't forget to bring the decimal down. And we have 6.3. Pretty close to the estimate. So again, when you estimate, take the first number, round up or down. In this case, we're rounding down. We get 2. The second number, we rounded up, and we got 4. Now, if you don't remember rounding, you should go look up the video on rounding. Okay, so here it is. Let's estimate and then find the sum on this. What can you do with this? Now with this, don't round it to the nearest tenth. Just always round to a nearest integer, the nearest whole number. So this would round to 3. What about the next one? Rounds to 5. And the next one? 5. So what is your estimate? 13. 13 is the estimate. Now, what do you do to get the exact number? Exact number. Line up the decimals, right? So let's line them up. We have 3.38, 4.7, 5.2. And again, it doesn't matter how you line them up with the commutative property. So what would you get? So if you want to put zeros there, you can. A lot of students do that. We have an 8. We have 12. Don't forget to bring the decimal down and bring that 1 over. And what do we have now? And we have 13. So 13.8, pretty close to our estimate of 13. So that's estimating. So if you're in a store and you see these prices, you're saying, well, one's $3.38, one's $4.70, one's $5.20. Well, I need to know, my estimate is $13, it could be over, and you're pretty close. Now, with subtraction, it's the same thing. You line up the decimals. Same thing with subtraction. You line up the decimals. But remember, in subtraction does not have the commutative property, so you can't switch the numbers around. So 3.4 has to go on top, and 0.034 has to go on the bottom, because that's how the order was. Remember, no commutative property in subtraction. Okay, and here you want to add zeros, and we have to do some borrowing. And we did this in 5th grade. And we can't borrow from nothing, so we have to borrow all the way to the 4. That becomes a 3. This becomes a 10. But now we can borrow from the 10. That's a 9, and that becomes a 10. So we have 6 here, we have 6 there, we have 3 there. We have 3.366. So remember, in subtraction, we just have to borrow, which we did in 5th grade. Now, if we want to do an estimate of this, 3.4 could be 3, and 0.034 could be 0. And our estimate is 3, and it's pretty close. Why 0? Well, the nearest whole number is 0. Now, there's a subtraction shortcut. And the way we'll do it is we'll round the whole number. So let me give you an example here. Let's say I had 13 minus 4.23. And we'll do the shortcut only if we have a whole number on top. So what I can do here is I can make this 4 a 5 right away. I can make it 13 minus 5. Just do that right away. And what do you get when it's 13 minus 5? You get 8. So our estimate is around 8. Now, we know we have a decimal. Now, we'll make this 0, 0, pretend it's 100. So 100 minus 23 is what? And sometimes you have to think logically. We'll say, well, 100 minus 25 is 75. And this is 2 less, so that would be 77. This is just a faster way to subtract when you have a whole number on top. I'll give you another example. Let's erase this. Can't find my eraser. Where'd it go? Let's say I had 15 minus 7.25. What can I do? Well, you can first add the zeros. Now, you can do this the borrowing way if you wish. Well, there's the shortcut. Again, round up the 7 to what? To an 8. So we're going to make this an 8. Let me use another marker. So I'll make this 7 an 8. Now what's 15 minus 8? That's 7. And 100 minus 25? 75. There we go. So that's what you do. You just round up the whole number and pretend that's 100 and minus it. So that's just a shortcut when you have a whole number on top. Now let's just review comparing decimals, which we did again in 5th grade. We'll see these signs, greater than, less than, equal to. And there's 2 others you'll learn in 6th grade. We'll have this line here on the bottom. And this means greater or equal to, or less than or equal to. And we'll go over these later on in the year. So we'll just concentrate on these. Which one's the bigger number here? Actually, we should use the word, what's the greater number? That's the proper definition. Well, again, like we did in 5th grade, they both have a 3, so they're even right now. But this has a 4 and that has a 0, so you can stop right there. You don't care about that 9. So 3.4 is the greater number. Remember, you always point to the smaller number, and you can think of that as the alligator, or Pac-Man, right? Pac-Man. There we go, Pac-Man. Eating, oh, the alligator always wants to eat the bigger number. So what about this one? If I had 5.6, and let's say I had 9, just 9. Well, it's pretty easy, right? 9's bigger. Right? What about this one? Again, we should use greater, but we always say bigger by accident. Everyone does it. So, what do you think this one is? They both have a 5. They both have a 6. This has a 0. But guess what? This also has a 0. Even though you don't see it, there's always a 0 there. So it's equal. Now let's try one more. What do you think? Which one's the bigger? Again, I said bigger. You have to get greater. The greater number. What is the greater number? Or the least greatest? Well, they both have a 2. They both have a 3. This has a 0. So does this. There's a 0 there. Just invisible. This has a 9, and that would have more zeros. So 0.2309 is the greater number. Alright, that's just adding and subtracting decimals. I showed you this shortcut with whole numbers. And we did comparing. Great job.